So welcome to this Security Solutions WebEx, where we are going to inform you about the new two-day security class being an enhancement, replacement for the class that you already know, Advanced Security. What are we going to talk about besides Security Solutions? We will talk about some other developments, new product developments on advanced web application firewalling. You must have heard of it. There have been some modifications on the 3-day partner bootcamp, the traditional first level of partner experience with our F5 course material. I would like to give you a Ravello update. And of course, in the end, we want to always end with questions and answers, definitely this time also. But I do know, before I hand over to Chris, who's going to show us from his PC all the interesting things that have changed and that are applicable to security solutions, I know that he and we both like interactive sessions. So if you have a question, you don't have to wait all the way up till the end. You have a mic. I haven't muted anybody. We'll have to do that if we suddenly have a lot of other background noises, but at this moment everything is going well. Let's make it as interactive as possible. So, what it was all about, the 2-day security solution class. Chris, I think it's best that I now hand over to you and do not use more of your airtime with the valuable information you want to share.
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry. Hello, can you hear me now?
I can hear you, and I think everyone can.
Okay. These phones always default on mute for some reason, and so I just want to keep you on your toes first thing in the morning. But hello, everybody. Good to see a lot of familiar names again, and I'm happy to be able to reach out and talk to you guys on a regular basis like this, because I do think we are going to have some more regular updates than you've seen in the past. And so I think having this type of a communication every 2, 3, 4 months is going to be really good. So we'll be able to stay in touch a lot more. So a couple of the main things, as Michael said, that we wanted to address during this time is the changes that I made in the second class, why I made them, and then what that means for some of the other content that maybe didn't make it into this new 2-day session. I'm going to talk about all of that. But I'm going to start by just giving a high-level overview or a high-level idea of sort of what my thought process was 3 or 4 months ago. I remember having a WebEx with several of you where I was talking about this just in speculation before really any of the development had started. And what I had talked about was ASM specifically, that coming back from our International Sales Conference in November, it was very clear that ASM and WAF, and now of course our advanced WAF, that the attention put on that is very high here at F5. And that was one of the reasons why I put some time into creating a lot of those demos that hopefully some of you have had a chance to see and work with. Oh, did you want to give me the screen, Michael?
I am smiling in the background with everything that you're saying, but I am having quite some trouble giving you the ball, so I think I need to do that differently.
Oh, here we go. I got it.
That's better.
Okay. So when I started thinking about this 2-day class that we had, that I developed a year and a half ago, First off, I like to be real honest and upfront with you guys. When I put that class together a year and a half ago, I did it under a short time frame. I didn't have a lot of lead time before I came out there to London and Amsterdam to be with you guys. So the first thing was, I was thinking to myself, if I had it to do over, I would have invested a little bit more time into some of the content. And then I started also thinking about the agenda that we had, and I felt that we were covering too many topics with a short amount of time in each topic. A little bit more of ASM, and then some big IQ, and then some WebSafe, and then some DHD, and then some SSLO. And the main driver for the change for me was ASM. I really wanted more content on ASM. I wanted to make sure that when your students leave this class, that they really truly understand and they get, what ASM is and how to use it, and not just get it, but that they're actually getting excited about it. They're getting excited about using it and exploring with it more. And I didn't feel that the previous content was quite there. And so in this updated version, I made quite a few changes to the PowerPoint slides. And by the way, I use a lot of the same, I use these same revisions in the training that I do for our new SEs here at F5. I just actually started using this in the very last boot camp that we did about a month ago, and it went very well. And one of the main changes is in these two lessons here. This used to be done in one lesson. I don't remember exactly what I called it, but I've found, and I used to teach this same lesson to the SEs, I just found that it was a lot of information to throw at them at one time. And so one of the first things I thought to myself was, if I had it to do over, I would introduce this information kind of a little bit more bit at a time, Let's get this understood, and now let's do an exercise, and now let's go on to the next, and let's get this understood. And so breaking down these concepts, the policy building and the trusted and untrusted requests, along with enforcement and staging, breaking that down into two lessons and two separate exercises, I think makes it a lot easier to teach, and in my opinion, a little bit more enjoyable to teach. That's just my opinion, because I enjoy this content, this topic. And I also made some pretty big updates to the slides to make it a little bit clearer, I think, for you when you're teaching this. So that was one of the changes in this ASM content. Another change in this content is in our brute force protection. This has been drastically improved since not the content, the actual product. Our ASM product has major improvements when it comes to our brute force protection. So there's new content in that lesson specifically about brute force, and it's a few more slides because it is a bit more comprehensive. So I definitely recommend, kind of get comfortable with that, get familiar with it. And then you'll see I've added a whole new lesson. And I put some thought into, this is really my own personal thought of what I would want to teach if I had another hour and a half or 2 hours with some prospective, ASM partners, sellers, students, you name it. And these are three topics that I think are really very, they're easy to understand. They add a great value. They add a really great value, I think, to the product. And they give a nice little break from some of the other topics. It's just, some really good protection. And so that was added. And then Layer 7 DOS has been updated a bit as well. Again, the content and the product, ASM's product. So that encompasses the whole first day. And I'm going to be honest, timing-wise, I'm not quite sure if there might be too much content in day one. It's very possible a lot of it might have to do with your own students and how long it takes them to get through some of the exercises. So I'm actually going to look to you guys to give me feedback on whether or not I'm putting too much on day one. So there's a lot for you to choose from, let's put it that way. So that's what I have for day one, and then the second day of this particular class is just broken down into two subjects. Many of you have been teaching the Partner Bootcamp for more than a couple of years, and so you remember in the previous version of the 3-day Partner Bootcamp, we did cover AFM. And in our newer version of the Partner Bootcamp, we took out AFM in place of covering LTM. So now, that's one of the reasons why I'm not calling this advanced security, I'm calling it security. It's a focus on security, and of course AFM and denial of service protection is part of security. So we're going to cover all of AFM in its entirety in day two. And then WebSafe, pretty much, I'm updated the slides quite a bit, made them cleaner. I did a lot of work on the WebSafe slides to just make them better content. However, the actual product didn't change much. So if you've been teaching the 2-day advanced security class, then the WebSafe content's not going to be very challenging for you to pick up on and start teaching. That should be fairly easy. So this class right now uses 2 different blueprints. And I'm not going to go into details as to why. I did try to do it in one blueprint, and there was one challenge. Again, I'm not really going to go into it, but if you look in the Revello, sorry, I thought I had that open, but I guess I didn't. And be thinking of questions, by the way. Be thinking of any questions that you have on any of this. Let me move this out of the way. So I do have 2 blueprints. I'll show you the blueprints, and then I'll just show you the class. But you've got Security Solutions Day 1 and Security Solutions Day 2. So Day 1 is just for the ASM content, nothing else. And then Day 2 has the AFM and the WebSafe content all available within that. And you will see inside of the training platform, when you're creating a class, that you do have the 2-day security solutions. And I have here in the description, just so that you know, it is V13, so it's not to be confused with the 2-day partner advanced security, which is the previous version of this class. So with that as a segue, what about the previous class? What about the previous content? So I have a couple of things about that. Number one, you are absolutely welcome to continue teaching the previous class if you would like, for whatever reason. For example, if you wanted to teach the previous ASM version 12 content or the DHD, you are welcome to do that. I am in the process of creating a separate training module, not a full class, but a training module for Big IQ. And that will take the place of the Big IQ training that was in the previous 2-day class. And it'll just be updated for the most current version of Big IQ, because there are quite a few updates, especially with ASM management and so forth. I am not, however, planning on updating the DHD content, and I'm not planning on updating the SSLO content at this time anyway. That might change, but at this time I'm not planning on updating it. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to make sure that those can be run from their own blueprints. So the idea as we're moving this forward is we want to give you guys the option of creating your own modularized custom classes. So right now we have 2 specific new classes. You've got the 3-day Partner Bootcamp, and you've got the 2-day Security Solutions. And you can teach either of those classes as is. You've got the exercise guide in a PDF format, so you just print out the exercise guide or whatever, and you're good to go, and you can teach those. However, you guys have the flexibility of teaching any of the topics in any format you like to a set of students. So for example, let's say, let me go back here to my folder. So let's say I wanted to do a 3-day Partner Bootcamp, which has the LTM on the day 1. I like that. I still want to cover LTM. We have ASM and we have APM. And then we also have DNS, but I don't really want to cover DNS. I'd rather cover AFM instead of DNS. Well, you now have the option of doing that. You can literally put together your own custom exercise guide. You can have it so that it's just got LTM followed by AFM, followed by ASM, followed by APM. You've got all the PowerPoints, so I trust that you guys all know and are able to pull up just the PowerPoint that you need at the time. And then you have the blueprints. And I have made all of the blueprints and all of the hands-on exercises for every section, every training lesson. I've made them all independent of anything else. So in other words, you can teach AFM by itself, and it doesn't require any items that were created in a previous exercise that the students never did. In fact, you could just go out and teach a 4-hour AFM class if you want, or you could teach a 1-day class with AFM for 4 hours and then ASM for 4 hours. That's the direction that I'm taking this program, is giving you these set classes so that you've got this 3-day Partner Bootcamp, you've got this 2-day Security Solutions, and then you've got all of the modular content. And we talked about this in our last phone call, but that's what these files are for. So I have all of the exercises in small pieces, and one of the changes that Michael was mentioning, there is just some small changes to the 3-day class. I didn't change any of the actual content. What I did change, however, I'll give you an example here. I'll open up ASM. So ASM is no longer listed as Module 3. You know, ASM is Module 3. Just ASM Lesson 1, ASM Lesson 2. Same thing if you look at the exercise guide. I'll go to the table of contents here. So it no longer says Module 3, Big IP ASM, and then ASM Lesson 3.1 and Exercise 3.1. I removed all that because what I was finding is that when you do put together a custom exercise guide, all of those module numbers got really confusing, going from Module 2 to Module 4, back to Module 1 or whatever. So I got rid of all the module numbers and basically just made them straight, Big IP ASM Lesson 1 and 2. And that's really the only change of any of the 3-day Partner Bootcamp content that's available for download right now, is just those changes. So what I want to just show you real quickly is, let's say I wanted to create this, custom exercise guide that has a little bit of content from the 3-day class and a little bit of content from the Security Solutions class. And I'm going to remind you that I have this all outlined in a PDF that you can follow. So I'm doing this off of my own memory, so forgive me if I make any mistakes. I hope I don't. But you're always going to start with the title page, table of contents, Ravello diagram file. You'll always start with that. And in here, there's just that's it, table of contents, title page. And here you can call this whatever you want, Whatever you want. You can put whatever you want on these. Right now, the table of contents doesn't have anything in it, but then we have the Ravello diagram that, for the most part, doesn't change too much. I might have to think about this, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. But in the document instructions, it always says to bring your mouse to the end of the file. So here I am. I'm at the very, very end of the file. And let's say the first thing I want to cover, I do want to spend the whole first day on all the LTM stuff. So I've got all the LTM exercises, 1 through 8. So I open up that particular file, and I literally just select the whole thing, copy the whole thing, close it, and then paste the whole thing. And then you'll notice it puts this section break here. These section breaks are very, very, very important. And what you want to do when you're putting this together is just follow the instructions and try not to deviate too much, because if you do and you accidentally remove these section breaks, that's where your table of contents will get messed up, and these headings at the top of each page might get messed up. So what the instructions say is make sure that you only have one carriage return at the end. Right now you'll see I have 2. And I want to remove that, so I've only got 1. That's actually also really important, because if you don't remove those carriage returns, you're going to get a new one at the end of every single time you paste a file in, and then it's going to push the paging off. So now all of a sudden your paging is going to be all messed up, and you're going to have weird page breaks, which again will make your printed document a little bit more, it won't look quite as correct. So let's say then what I wanted was I wanted to do AFM after LTM. Well, there is no AFM in here, and that's because AFM is not part of this class. AFM is in the 2-day class. So you'd go into the 2-day class materials, where I also have the files for the custom guides. Stretch that out here. And here I've got my AFM exercises. And again, I just copy all this, select it all, copy it. And I paste it. Remove the extra carriage returns. Oops, not that last one. There we go. Now I've got, you can even see over here, from LTM exercise 8, then we go right into AFM exercise 1, or lesson 1. And then let's say I wanted to cover ASM, and I actually wanted to do 4 lessons of ASM. I wanted to do the first 2 lessons from the 3-day partner boot camp. So this just has lessons 1 and 2, kind of the introduction of ASM. So I copy all that, paste it in, remove that extra carriage return. Then I want some of the exercises from the 2-day class. Now, ASM, I've made it a little bit more modular because we do have several ASM lessons that you may or may not want to teach separately. So I could do all 5 of the exercises or the lessons from the 2-day class at one time if I wanted. But that's actually not what I want to do. I only want to do the first exercise, which is the manual versus automatic policy building and so forth. So I'm going to copy all that. Remove that extra carriage return. And then exercise 3. This is learning, staging, and enforcement. Select all that, copy it, paste it, and now you'll see when I go, now I'm done. So now I would go and update my table of contents. Oops. So now I've got my LTM, I'm going to cover on day 1. Then I've got my AFM. Then I've got ASM, lessons 1 and 2. And then ASM Advanced, lessons 1, 2, and 3. Lesson 1 here is the review from Partner Bootcamp. Now, if you get really comfortable with this, you wouldn't even, if I were you, I would just be fine with this. This is actually now a perfect custom exercise guide, and it works just great. Yeah, but if you wanted, you could say, well, I don't have to do the review because I'm actually covering that right before that. Like I said, if you get comfortable with these, you can always just come and delete this right out. If I do this right, it should work. So now I just have ASM and then ASM Advanced, lessons 2 and 3. And if you really wanted to, you could go in and you could change some of those headings and the lesson numbers. That's just like if you really want to make it perfect, I guess. But at this point, you have an exercise guide now for a very specific class that just covers very specific content. You would use the specific blueprints at the right time for them to do the exercises they needed to do. So this is a kind of sort of and by the way, this may not be incredibly intuitive the first time you do it, but I guarantee you if you do this 2 or 3 times, it's going to become much more easy for you to follow that, and you'll get much more, you'll be able to throw your own exercise guides together real easily. So the reason I wanted to bring that up is because as I'm now developing a couple of new training options for you guys, they're not necessarily always going to be a full day class for you. So for example, the Big IQ content, within another month or so, I will have an updated Big IQ module. That module will probably have 3 lessons with their own exercises, and then you can decide if you want to plop those exercises into another class. If you want to teach it by itself, you know, you'll have that option. And it's going to be the same thing with the DHD content and the SSLO content. As I said, I'm not going to update the content, but I am going to make the content available in such a way that you can add that to an exercise guide somewhere so that you can add it to your class that you may want to teach. So that's not available yet. That is on my to-do list. The last thing I want to show you is what I am working on at this very moment. So I am putting together what I'm calling a full day, a full course of just ASM/Advanced WAP. I should probably update the name of that. This particular class, I'm going to show you everything right now that I have on the agenda, and the agenda may increase as well. So in this class, I have lessons 1 and 2 from the partner boot camp, but I have made some minor changes to this lesson 1. I touch a little bit on the on the layer 7 denial of service. And in the first exercise of this, they actually just do a very quick, simple ASM policy that blocks SQL injection and blocks cross-site scripting. And then they create a very quick layer 7 DOS profile that blocks, Apache Bench DOS attack. So it's a little bit different from the other content. And then lesson 2, file type enforcement. That used to be called allowing specific file types. I've changed the name to file type enforcement because that's actually really what it is called, is file type enforcement. And you may have noticed that I've removed attack signatures from here, and that's because you'll see now in lesson 5, I actually have a full lesson on attack signatures. So I go into a little bit more detail on attack signatures, including how to create custom attack signatures. And this is just day 1. Or excuse me, not day 1. This is just the first slide. Then I'm also adding a lesson on data guard and PCI compliance, a lesson on using layered policies, violation detection, and cookie hijacking. So that's all going to be new content, which I'm in the process of completing right now. Then you've got all of the layer 7 denial of service. That's not going to be a whole lot different. And then the last 3 lessons, these are the ones that are specific to advanced WAF, credential stuffing, behavioral denial of service protection, and data safe. Now, I haven't yet put a whole lot of thought into how much time I really think all of this might take, but I think it's somewhere between 3 and 4 days, and that's a lot of time. I don't expect any of you to put together a 4-day class. You could, and I think that would be great, but once again, the idea for this is going to be a modular option for you when you're going to go out. If you want to teach just an ASM class, we'll say an ASM/advanced WAF class, the idea here is that you can pick and choose the lessons you want to cover. So I am going to put together, when I'm done, I'll put together, the approximate time that each one of these would take, so that you have an idea of how much you could get done, let's say, in 2 days. So if you knew you wanted to put together a 2-day ASM class, you could come in and pick the exact topics that you want to teach and do the exact hands-on exercises that you want, and then, of course, be able to put together the custom exercise guide for your students. So this is what I am working on getting completed, and once again, it'll be a standalone class. So if you wanted to do, let's say, a 3-day class, you would have the 3-day class available, but then you could then chunk it out and make a modular class out of it to do customized versions of it. So I anticipate this being done by the end of July, early August. It would be done earlier than that, but I am actually leaving next week to India and Thailand to do a train-the-trainer session with distributors over there, and they're going to be doing the same content that you guys will be doing. So the first 2.5 weeks of the month are taken up with that. So that's the only reason why I wouldn't be able to get this done. But I do already have all of this content available. So if there's any of you that would like a preview of this and you'd like to see what I have done up to this point, I'm going to ask you to email me directly before next week, and I'll share what I have with you. And you can give me feedback if you like. I'm happy to get any feedback that you guys have to give. So let me know if it's something you would like to see, and start trying the exercises and see how they work and how the slides look and so forth. So let's see, Michael. That was a lot of talking. You tell me, Michael, is there anything that right now that I haven't covered that we had?
Chris, it was a lot of talking, but it was sensitive and sensible talking. So thank you very much. I think we've got a good explanation on the solution security class. Very clear. I hope that all the trainers will be as enthusiastic as I am on the modularity of the topics, allowing everyone to make custom classes. For now, only with the 3-day partner bootcamp and the 2-day security solutions class. But, and that's the beautiful thing that you just said, new modules are on their way. Big IQ with all the modifications, even more ASM information, specifically on enhancement and yeah, let's call it AWAF, Advanced Web Application Firewalling. I really like it. I just want to, before I hear a very strange zoom in when I talk. I hope you don't have the same. No? Then I just keep talking because then it's local. But before I start talking, I want to give the trainers who are in the session the opportunity to raise their hand, go off mute, and do a question. And that gives me the opportunity to take back the screen and the monitoring. Are there any questions?
I'm seeing a question come in, but I've just lost it. Okay, wait, go back. One regarding the 3-day content. Go ahead. This is Benedict. Hi, Benedict. He's typing. The stuff on history, yes. The stuff on the history. When will we do that? That's a very good question. And what Benedict is talking about, we have, where's my folder?
F5 Big IP History.
So this is content that I didn't actually put together. A coworker of mine has put it together, and I don't think a lot of you have met this coworker of mine. He does this training sometimes here in the U.S. for military, government, for government accounts we have. And this is something that he likes to teach. You'll notice it's not actually part of the agenda. So I don't necessarily have it as part of the agenda. So the best answer to the question is, this is to your discretion if you'd like to cover it. I am of the feeling that this training has a very specific purpose in mind, and that purpose is to enable your partners to go out and be more proficient with F5, to understand F5's product offering better. I am not convinced myself personally if understanding the full history of everything we've done and where we've come from is always necessary for a new partner. That is something that is to your discretion. If you feel like they would appreciate that, or it's information that's important for them to know, then I would cover it whenever you like. I personally wouldn't cover it unless somebody asked for that information. So that is my opinion. Don't hold my opinion as gospel here at F5. So I hope that answers your question.
I think it beautifully aligns with the custom class that everybody now can create. And if you have a feeling that this adds to the knowledge of the audience in your classroom, go for it. It's there. And the beautiful thing about history is that it will not change. So this is not a module that we will keep updating every time on downloads f5.com. Probably we need to add a couple of chapters or slides in a few years. But for now, the history is there and it's telling the truth. If you need it, use it. Focusing on the 2-day security solutions course that we have introduced. I do not want to continue before saying thanks to Chris for creating it and also saying thanks for some people that contributed. I will not thank everybody in the States because I know that there have been people in the States reviewing and providing feedback, but also here in EMEA, we have had Gunnar Haalbeek from Arrow and Lucas Knisak from Veracom, and those two put in a whole lot of time and effort to give feedback on slides, but also on labs. I did the same, but for me, I get paid for it. They did it voluntarily. That's a big difference, and it should translate in the quality. I am not guaranteeing that there are no typos left. Courseware and typos, that will always be the case. What I do know is that their contribution also increased the quality of the material. So, Lucas, Gunnar, thank you very much for doing this. As we speak, we are piloting it in Casablanca. Dris Bendekar from Westcon is doing a pilot. And one last note on DHD and SSLO, the two modules in the advanced security class. Although they do not fit the modularity of this new future, they are there. And I can confirm because last week we have reactivated the licenses that was necessary. So for the next 45 days, the blueprints that you will find in Ravello will work. And in, let's say, 43, 44 days from now, we will do the same. So those modules will be there, will stay active for you to train if you want to use them. Looking at slide, we did completely forget something. There have been new videos on the YouTube channel. The Worldwide Field Enablement YouTube channel now also holds the videos for AFM and for WebSafe. So if you want to have a peek on an example on where Chris is presenting this material, go to our YouTube channel and have a look. And last but not least, in any case of questions, you know you can always reach out for Chris or myself or somebody else from F5. But if we're not aware of any issues that you're having with the course where we cannot help you. So give us your feedback, particularly in the next coming weeks, your first deliveries. They will be probably some questions that with an answer will be addressed properly.
One other quick thing, the ASM videos we also updated those because of the change in the content. So the fact that I changed the delivery of manual, automatic learning, trusted, untrusted, staging, all that, I split that into the two lessons. I have a lot of new slides. So I replaced the video for that as well. So you can review those as well. And one of the things that I've added, and some of you may have noticed this in some of the slides, there are times where I personally do a whiteboard. I have found, that a whiteboard works really well for one thing or another. And I have those in the videos. I think it's helpful to have that in the video. And I also have it called out in the slides now. There'll be like a black slide with just, a heading that says, let's do a whiteboard or something like that. You don't have to do those whiteboards. That's completely up to you always. I just have it there so that if you think it can be a useful analogy for you as well, that you have it available. So I just wanted to point that out, that yes, those videos are all available. And right now, I don't have videos for the new ASM content let me look at my slide here real quickly. So right now, I don't have videos available yet for brute force web scraping protection, CSRF protection, parameter tampering, geolocation, and layer 7 denial of service protection. However, I am going to be covering that content next couple of weeks in Asia, and I'm going to record myself covering the content. So when I get back from that trip, I will upload those videos. So by the third week or so of July, there will be videos of me presenting that content as well. So I don't know if any of you guys have had a chance to review those videos. Aside from having to watch me for that long, I know that's probably very challenging. I know I've had some people that have mentioned that it helps them get their preparation done. So take a moment, take a look at it if you get a chance. All right, Michael.
Two first bullet points on this slide, we have addressed them more than enough. And the third one, I don't want to spend too much time, but I do want to give you the feedback that we see that the usage of Ravello is pretty impressive. A lot of you are using it, so that's good. We did have a few complaints, but almost neglectable. Overall, the feedback that we are receiving is very positive, and also the feedback that we want to give back to you is very positive. What we've seen in the early period is that the average cost of an application was pretty high. We are not on what we estimated $25 per application, meaning per class, student, but we are moving towards that direction. The statistics beneath it, I don't think you can really read and see it, but just to give you an overview, in the month of May, 368 applications were run. Roughly 350 of them were really students somewhere doing a training, and we can also map that, of course, towards the trainer, towards the theater, whether it's the Americas or probably in the future we will see Asia in there. EMEA will be there, and you see the distributors. So we have a very good visibility on the level and the number of redeliveries that are taking place, and we are very happy. Hope you are also. The Q&A, we're rounding up. Any questions on what you've heard and seen so far?
Or anything else that you hope you're waiting for that we haven't done?
Yes, exactly. No problem. I think we have been very, very clear. What I've forgotten to share with you is that some of you have tried to share blueprints from Ravello, and that wasn't possible in the past. Chris changed privileges, and now it is possible. I do want to emphasize that before you start sharing blueprints, think for yourself why you want to do that and what you want to achieve with it. Personally, I would say you have access to a domain with blueprints, still free for usage, and any question you have you can direct to us. All those benefits will be lost as soon as you copy the blueprint to something else. I'm not that enthusiastic on answering questions on how to implement a blueprint in an environment that's not supported by F5. And I think that also applies to Chris. But the functionality is there. Let's finish positively. I see a lot of chat feedback. If there are really no questions, or maybe they bump up later today, tomorrow, next week, send us an email and we'll respond. And that would mean that for now, I will give you back some of your valuable time. we'll stop this session, and I wish you all a whole lot of fun and enjoy redelivering this security solutions course.
Let me know how it goes, everybody.
Thanks, Chris. Bye-bye, and thanks.
Bye, everybody. Good to see you.